Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you. Hi guys, welcome to another True Crime Tuesday live event. I am your host, SYNOVAINK. Today we've got a strange case that we're going to be talking to you about. It is a few decades old and yet we still don't know what happened. But as always, I want to introduce my co-host. I have my lovely research assistant, Tammy, on the line. How are you, Tammy?
I'm good. I hope you guys are all good.
I am doing well. I've got my iced coffee here. Make sure you guys check out our affiliate link, Bones Coffee. That helps us make more videos. So every time you buy a book or use one of our affiliate links, it helps us drastically. So we thank you in advance for that. Also on the line, I have my fellow victims advocate and crime writer. Her name is Cricket Andrews. Hi, Cricket. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
We've got lots of people already signed on. We've got several people that have been signed on and waiting in the chat box in the chat room while we were getting ready to go live. So I see all of you girls. I appreciate you guys hanging out and chatting while you wait on us. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a case that we are going to actually have to split into two sessions because it is so labor intensive just to get through it. And it's one of those cases that it's an interesting mystery. You've probably seen it on a documentary or two over the years. And yet when you realize that it started in 1977, it lasted for 20 years. Some people died because of it. Some people went to prison because of it. And yet nobody knows really what happened. So it's pretty interesting. But before we get started there, I wanted to make a couple announcements before we go. Last week, Venus, you won the cards, the playing cards that say True Crime Tuesday. I am so sorry. I looked on my desk and they were still sitting there. I did not mail them. I am so sorry. I will get them out to you. As soon as I get done, I'll make the label and get it out. So I'm sorry, Venus. I still have your cards. So don't worry. They're not lost in the mail. That one's on me. The next one, I have an exciting announcement. I have had some different auditions from narrators to narrate my Dawn of the Dixie Mafia book. And I found the perfect one. And I am going to actually play you guys a little clip of that tonight, just as a teaser. Hopefully within a month or less, I should have it. So give me just a second and I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to let you guys listen to this guy's voice because it is incredible. And this is just a 3-minute clip. We'll listen to it. And then if you guys like it, you guys make sure and let me know in the comments. Okay. But I think I found the right guy with the perfect voice for this. All right, here we go.
Author's note. I'd rather take my chances with the original Mafia. They're not as trigger happy as their Dixie counterparts. Chief Deputy Wallace Laird, Covington, Louisiana Sheriff's Department, quote given to the Orlando Sentinel, November 23rd, 1971. Sit back and let me tell you a story buried deep in the legends of the South. It's a story of crime, chaos, crime fighters, and liquor. It's a story of blood, murder, and intimidation. For those who think organized crime belongs in the North, you have another thing coming. The South was just as brutal and perhaps even more so. While I've studied hard and tried to verify all these tales, some of them are still shrouded in the mists of legend. I will leave you to decide what's truth and what's fiction, As a writer, I humbly place before you these legends of the Dixie Mafia. Enjoy. Throughout this tale, I reference a Dixie Mafia intelligence report. It was prepared in 1974 by the Office of Attorney General Vern Miller. You can go to my website store page and download your own copy for free. www.synovaink.com. Prologue. Darkness settled around him as he locked the law office door. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, he knew he was next. He'd stood against the Dixie Mafia's machine in Phoenix City, and he would pay dearly for it. 28 times blood had been shed without justice. Law enforcement, judges, and local politicians were all connected to the criminal organization, and they had sucked the life out of the community for decades. Who was he to think he could escape their grasp? The people tried to make a stand and voted him into office, but Albert Patterson would never take the position. As he walked to his car, a gunman emerged from the shadows. Patterson felt a cold steel barrel shoved against his teeth. The projectile tore through his skull, but the gunman's fury wasn't finished. 2 more bullets ripped through his body as he fell to the ground. The sacrifice bled out on the street as the gunman hurried away. The faint streetlight glinted off the badge on his belt.
There you go. So that gives you a little idea of what Dawn of the Dixie Mafia is about. It's all about corruption and the corrupt police officer that killed this man, who was actually fighting for justice. And then it talks about how martial law was declared and tried to clean up the whole city, and that's kind of where the Dixie Mafia started. And then all of you guys can watch my YouTube videos to find out about that. But within a month or so, we should have a full audiobook.
I gotta tell you now, I read the book, and listening to his voice, it just drew me. It just draws you right in.
It does. Well, I'm the author. I wrote the book. You know, I know what it says, but after listening to him, I've got a little bit longer clip, but I didn't want to waste too much time. Yeah, I'm like, what happens next? And then I'm like, stupid, you wrote it. You know what happens next. So anyways, that's just a little sneak peek for all of you guys that get on here live. I wanted to let you know what I'm working on behind the scenes. So I'm excited about that because I think a lot of people don't actually consume books like in paperback form as often anymore. They do audiobooks or ebooks, and so I'm trying to provide all of those things so everybody can hear the story. Okay, so tonight we're talking about the mystery of the Circleville Letters. Now, there is a town called Circleville, Ohio, and it is a medium-sized town. It's not really what you would call a city. It was about 12,000 people in 1977. It was kind of had a rural feel to it, and some people had been there for decades. You know, they had been there for generations. They had, it was a small town feel. And in March 1977, something disturbing started. A set of letters starts being sent out that are basically blackmail and intimidation, threats, and voter fraud. There's all kinds of letters that are being sent out, but the one that starts kind of really gaining publicity was one that was sent to Mary Gillespie. Now, Mary was married to Ron Gillespie, and they lived in this town and had some children, and she worked at the school as a bus driver. Now, this letter wrote to her, informed her that this person had been watching her, and that this person knew that she was having an affair with the superintendent, and that if it didn't stop, there was going to be threats, there was going to be harm come to her children, and they just went all out on various different threats. Well, she didn't pay any attention to them, and she went on, and come to find out, the school had been getting threats and these letters because of the man that she supposedly was having an affair with. Now, she claims that she did not have an affair with him. Later on, they would get together, which I think is ignorant, but later on they did get together. Supposedly in 1977, she was happily married to Ron. This man was happily married to his wife. They just happened to work together. Now, this man's name was Gordon Massey. Now, this Gordon Massey, they had been getting threats of his own, saying that he had been basically sexually harassing different people in the school, and that it needed to stop. And if he didn't change his behavior, he would be reported to the school board. So he gets these letters. And then when he doesn't do anything different, the school board starts getting letters from basically trying to threaten the school board into firing this man, even though there's no evidence of this. Okay, so this had been going on until March of 1977. The letters start directing themselves to Mary, and Mary hides them for a while. She thinks they're she doesn't really know what to do with them. Finally, after 2 weeks, she is getting these almost every day. Threatens for her to lose her job, threats that they're going to put it all over billboards and posters, and then they say that they're going to go ahead and put it on, they're going to put it all over town, basically. She doesn't do anything, so they start sending letters to her husband, and they start threatening him and telling him that they need to be found together and that he should kill them. So he should wait and trap them, and when they're both together, he should kill them both. And so this is the kind of the gist of the letters. There's a whole series of letters that are written that all goes around. It's almost like a self-righteous gossip busybody who is trying to demand that you live up to their standards or there will be consequences. Now, other than causing massive amounts of stress, nobody lost their job. There wasn't any actual consequences. No one ever followed through on this first set of letters. Now, after this all ends, we will find out that over the course of 20 years, these type of blackmail letters had been going to people all across the town. There were even some that were outside of town but were still in the same county. They estimate that almost 1,000 letters had gone out to people, random people, about random things. Now, some of them seemed legitimate. Some of them were completely dismissed because they were sent to someone saying they were abusing their children, and when that person had no children, so those kinds were kind of discarded as a cruel joke kind of thing. So, but what happened is Mary Gillespie seems to be the whole original core group of things seems to be centered around Mary and her so-called affair with this superintendent. Okay, so in August 1977, things are going to take a drastic turn. So this has gone on from March to August. Things are going to take a deadly turn. Ron and his wife are, of course, everything's strange. She's telling him this isn't true, but either way, it's causing a lot of stress. Mary and her sister take a road trip, take a vacation. They're going to get away for a while. While she's gone, Ron is watching their daughter. Now, Ron receives a phone call, and at this point, he is furious. He's angry. His daughter, which was young, she recalls that he had yelled something in the phone, and then he slammed it down. He kissed her goodbye, said he was going to take care of this once and for all. He walks out of the door with his gun, takes off in his truck, and tears down the street. A couple hours later, or an hour later, there's different reports that say different things. They find his truck wrapped around a tree. He is dead. Strange thing, he had a high blood alcohol content, which no one really realized he was drinking, but that could have just been because of the stress. But his gun had been fired once, but they couldn't find the bullet. And so it was found underneath his body. So people are wondering, why did he shoot one bullet? Where did the bullet go? And why? How did he end up wrapped around this tree? So now these letters have escalated to the point that someone has died because of them. Now this continues on, and within, I don't know, I think it was like 3 years after he died. By this time, Gordon Massey's marriage had fallen apart. Mary was a widow now because of all of this, trying to raise her daughter by herself. And now, all of a sudden, these two are being seen in public together. And so she says, yes, we started a relationship after all of this fell apart. And of course, that is also when the threats start to escalate even more. So from 1977 to 83, we've got all of these years. These letters continue. They are sent to Mary constantly. They're sent to Gordon Massey constantly. They're sent to various people around them. Then the letters change tactics, and they start attacking the children. They start saying nasty things about Mary's daughter. Okay, they continue on, and then they start this campaign, this letter campaign. All of a sudden moves to posters and cardboard signs that are left around the roads. Okay, now by now this has gone on for 6 years. The main source of what seems like their focus is between this Mary and Gordon, but all around them, hundreds of letters are being mailed out to random people saying, hey, I saw you walking down the street with some guy you're not married to. I'm going to tell everybody at church. Then you have, like I said, the woman who said that was threatened that they were going to tell the church on her if she didn't stop beating up her daughter, abusing her daughter. And well, this woman didn't even have a daughter. So you're thinking, well, what does that mean? So all of this has gone on for 6 years. Everybody in this town, the small town gossip has gone crazy. People have died because of this. Marriages have fallen apart. Somehow Mary still keeps her job. I'm not sure how she maintains that. But by February 7th, 1983, things were going to come to a boiling point. She drives this school bus and she goes a certain route every day. Well, she goes by this certain spot in the road that the road kind of tees off. This is also real close to where her husband died. Okay. She's driving down this road. She makes a stop. She turns and looks both ways. There is a huge cardboard sign that says, that's not just attacking her. Now the cardboard sign says that Gordon Massey has sexually assaulted her daughter, who was a teenager at the time. So now they are publicly harassing her child. In anger, she pulls the bus over. She goes over and tries to pull the sign down. When she does, the sign is tied to these posts and has a strange box behind it. She pulls it down, sticks it in her bus, and takes it home. After everything's done, she opens this up. She finds out that it was a gun rigged in there with a rope that was supposed to shoot her as she pulled down the sign. Now, if you look at it online, you can see this. It doesn't look structurally sound. It could have possibly worked, but anyone that has any knowledge of how firearms work and how booby traps work and basic physics wouldn't think that that little string was going to hold up under that pressure. And instead, it broke when she took the sign down instead of pulling the trigger. So it's kind of a podunk wannabe booby trap that was deadly, and if it had worked, she would have been dead, but it didn't work. Now, all of this culminates in an arrest and a conviction of a very unusual person that no one would have believed. Mary and Ron, their best friends and their family. Ron's sister was married to a man called Paul Freshour. Mary's sister, so it was her sister-in-law and brother-in-law. So you got Paul and Karen Freshour. Karen is Ron's sister. So Karen and Mary Gillespie are sister-in-laws. Okay. Paul is the brother-in-law. Okay. They go and they find a partially scratched off serial number on that gun, and it happened to be owned by Paul Freshour. Now, Paul Freshour was the one that was fighting with the police at the time, trying to get them to reinvestigate his brother's death on the highway. He was telling them he felt like that was murder. It wasn't an accident. He felt like somebody had something to do with that, and he believed it was the letter writer. Now, the sheriff had written off all this information as hearsay, written it off as unimportant. He refused to investigate further. So at this point, we are talking, it had been 6 years that Paul had been fighting on behalf of his brother-in-law, and now all of a sudden he's the main suspect, okay, in trying to supposedly booby trap and kill his sister-in-law, okay? So he adamantly swears it was not him. The gun had been stolen previously, and still through a lot of illegal maneuvering in his court case, he was convicted of creating this booby trap and attempted murder. He goes away for 10 years. Okay. In this trial, they allow all of these letters to be submitted in as evidence, even though he's not charged with any letters. He's not charged with any of the Circleville letters. But by doing this, they tainted the jury, and the jury thinks, oh my gosh, we got the guy. So they send him away for 10 years, even though he had alibis. He had other people that knew the gun had been missing. He had all of his bases covered. They convicted him anyways because they thought that he was the letter writer and that they were going to get rid of him. So he goes to jail, and the letters should stop. In fact, the letters amped up. Paul would even get letters, a letter from the Circleville letter writer. He would get a letter while in prison saying, we got you, and there's no way you're getting out of this. Okay. They say he must be writing them and smuggling them out of prison. The warden literally puts him in the hole and monitors him 24/7. He has no access to pens and pencils and paper whatsoever. The letters continue. And yet, even when he's paroled in 1994, even though he's paroled, he is still labeled by many people as the letter writer, even though there is no proof, and he swears that it wasn't him. So this is the basic rundown of a very complicated case, and we're going to dive into it. Girls, say something. I'm going to look through the chat. I've got all kinds of people commenting, and I haven't got to respond.
Okay. Paul's ex-wife, Karen, she had found a letter in the toilet. Nobody else saw it. And also, she had gotten letters, but nobody else saw them. And there are, there's a few suspects, but in my opinion, Karen had the most to gain,
right?
Because she got her children back, and where the booby trap was. It was said that a man looked like he was going potty there by the road, and they described his car. Well, the car also looks like Karen's brother's car. What bothers me is that the police never investigated any of these, especially when a child is being put out there. I think she was like 12 or 13 at the time. Yeah. And her face is being plastered around. And this is the the school superintendent is accused of this.
Yes.
Why is that not being, Well,
nowadays he would have been put on paid administrative leave until the investigation to prove that he was innocent. Yep. And then they would have went on, but he still maintained his job. Mary still maintained her job. I don't really care. I mean, if they were having an affair, they were. I don't believe for a minute they started afterwards. I think they probably were having an affair.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
But I don't believe in the whole my morals. I'm going to push on you, and I'm going to threaten to kill you, and convince your husband to go off in a rage and end up dying because you don't have my moral standard. You know, to me that seems like when I first heard about this case the first time, before I ever researched it, I thought honestly that it was a group of self-righteous vigilantes who wanted to push their moral legalistic ideas on everybody else, and thought that by telling them all of their things and taking all of their skeletons out of their closet and threatening people, that somehow that was in their you know, they were on a mission for God or something. In reality, they have skeletons in their own closet, and if they're willing to threaten people and willing to encourage people to die and willing to encourage people you know, to harm children, then they're not any better than the people that they are causing problems for. But that's what I thought to begin with. But they said at one point they believed that there was at least 1,000 letters.
Yeah.
Now this is something strange. Those letters don't exist anymore. There's only a handful of the letters that have survived, and nobody knows why. So you have a former FBI handwriting analyst who says she's 100% sure she knows who did it, and she says it was Paul. And she's like, all of these letters were written by the same hand. Nobody makes their G's look like a 6, except for me. I do. And on. And I'm sitting here going, you can't say that when you don't have 1,000 letters to compare. You don't know.
Exactly.
Tammy, I haven't heard much for you. Smoke and Haze asks if this is a live chat and a recorded video. No, this is not a live chat and recorded video. This is a live video, nothing pre-recorded, other than that little clip that I gave you at the beginning.
I wanted to mention the sharing contest because I see a couple people, but some of the newer ones might not realize that if they share that they get
I wasn't going to mess with it tonight, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it seems like last time there wasn't very many people interested in it, so I wasn't going to do it. But we can. I
want to mention that whenever Ron left the house, angry, left the house, and then his truck was discovered anywhere from 50 minutes to like 2 hours later, according to which report you read. It was just discovered down the street. Well, what did he do? Like you brought up earlier, what did he do? It was just a few miles from his house.
Oh.
Was he coming back when he wrecked, or was it right at, he done
what
something?
took him an hour to 2 hours? What one report said it was 2 hours before the accident. They reported the accident. Where it happened, it wasn't like it was a lonely stretch of road where there's nobody there to see him for 2 hours. It wasn't too far from his home. There was traffic. It wasn't a hidden place. So I'm assuming that this accident didn't sit there for 2 hours. What did he do for an hour to 2 hours within a few blocks from his house? Why did it take so long before the accident was discovered or called in? And so, yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't understand.
Why didn't sheriff? And then the sheriff had the truck crushed, like within just a few days. Yes. And so he really didn't investigate that.
No. And this is the one thing that Paul Freshauer, he got on the sheriff's nerves because he had been fighting with the sheriff, telling him over and over he needs to investigate this. It wasn't an accident. And the sheriff literally says, see, I have it here. I have court documents and everything here. Okay, let's see. It says, okay, Ron's gun had one bullet missing. The gun itself had shown signs of being fired recently. They couldn't find the bullet. These facts were overlooked by the sheriff's department, who called this information irrelevant. The man was on a mission to take care of the person that had been tormenting him. His gun had been fired. You can't find the bullet. And yet this information is irrelevant to the case. You know, so I can see why the sheriff and Paul are at odds. And this had been going on for 6 years now. And so when all this happens with the booby trap, the sheriff is more than willing to say, oh yeah, he's been harassing me to death. It's probably that guy. And that seems like that's the way it goes from then on. Let's see.
Is it true that someone got arrested that night and the sheriff lied about it to Paul?
I have seen reports of that, yes. And they said that there was a suspect originally, but it was all covered up and it wasn't released who that was. Okay, so I have, trying to catch up on comments. Venus, hi, Kimberly, hi, Darlene. Marion says, hello, thank you all for being here. I'm putting out our stories and giving the family support. Thank you, Marion. Karen Langston, hello. Joanne, hello. He has a great radio voice. Yes, he does. I think he's going to be great for the audiobook. Marion says, thank you, ladies. You do such a great job. Sorry, I missed you last week. Yes, Marion and Barbara, we missed both of you guys, but we realized you had a difficult anniversary of losing someone you cared about. And so our little live video is not important in those situations. But we did miss you. Yes. Okay. Venus says, did he idolize Jack the Ripper in the Zodiac? Remember the Zodiac? He taunted police by sending cryptograms. Yes. You know, you never know. He may did. Okay. So this is the thing. This is the thing that I want people to understand about this case. This case, you think, well, what difference does it make? It's old. There's nothing left here. Well, you're going to find out that this man spends 10 years of his life in prison for a very heartbreaking reason. He goes to court. And I have the court documents here, and you guys can download them. I can give you a link to where to download them. On October 24th, 1983, Judge William Ammer decides to exclude the letters, the Circleville letters, as evidence from the trial. Exclude them because they are going to taint the jury. The jury has hated this guy. The jury, everybody in Circleville, half the population in Circleville have received these letters. They know somebody that's received these letters. It's not going to be an unbiased jury. So the judge goes to rule them out. Well, then they argue the point and they say, well, will you let them in if we do a change of venue? So the judge says, yes, I'll let them in if you give us a change of venue so you can get a jury that's not emotionally attached to this concept of being harassed by mail. Okay. They get that approved. Then they turn around, and when it comes time for trial, he blocks the order for a change of venue, but he still allows the letters in. So 39 letters that have nothing to do with Paul Freshour, that have nothing to do necessarily with the booby trap, have nothing to do with this whatsoever, they use against him. They bring Mary Gillespie up and have her tell her sob story about how horrible her life has been because this man has been writing her letters. This man has destroyed her family. This man caused the death of her husband. This man did all this. Paul didn't do any of it. And yet he is the victim of this, and I'll tell you why. You can look up some different newspaper articles and you will find this one is the Daily Oklahoma. I don't know how you say Oklahoman. I don't know how you say that. It's Saturday, March 5th, 1983. Now, this is a headline. I'll show you the headline. So I'm not making the headline up. There you go. Can you see it? Murder attempt suspect admits obscene letters. A man charged with trying to kill a relative by booby trapping an obscene road sign has admitted to writing dozens of threatened and obscene letters to her. Okay? He had never admitted to it. He has vehemently denied it all the way until he finally died of a heart attack at 70 years old. He had been fighting this, trying to get the FBI to pay attention, trying to get somebody to pay attention. He did not do this.
In fact, that the Innocence Project was trying to get him out.
Yes. Now, this is what really upsets me. I'm looking for this. County Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe told the reporter that Fresh Hour denied knowledge of the booby trap signed, but said that he had written 40 or 50 letters to businessmen, school officials, government employees, and school district residents over the past 7 years. So the sheriff told the reporter that, yes, he's admitted to everything. That is a flat out blatant lie. He never admitted to anything, and he died at 70 years old still saying, I didn't do this. Somebody else help me. Okay? Here's the thing. At the bottom of this article, if you can take anything this article says for truth, it talks about where the motive comes from. Fresh Hour had the October before the booby trap, so the year before, he had filed for a divorce from an abusive wife who had abused him and caused him so much trouble. He had filed for divorce, claiming that she had abused him over and over again in their marriage, and he couldn't live with her anymore. So you've got a man back in the 80s, when it's all about toxic masculinity, who is getting a divorce from a woman that he cares about for the most embarrassing reason. She abuses me. She assaults me.
And he was given full custody of the kids.
He was given full custody of the kids, and he was given the majority of everything. Okay. Yeah. But he admitted that she's the toxic individual that's causing us problems and attacking us. She's the vindictive, her name's Karen. She's the OG Karen. Go. So he has admitted, in a time where the whole concept of a man has to be strong and powerful, nobody can hurt me, the kind of thing. He admitted to the truth. My wife is vindictive and toxic, and we cannot live with her. The problem is he raises his daughters. She manipulates the son against his father to try to hurt him. She uses the son against the father. The son had come in and stolen a bunch of things from the father, and that included the gun that was missing. He told friends, he told other people what happened, but he refused to report it to the police because he didn't want to get his son in trouble for something that his wife had initiated. And so this is what happened. He didn't let that come out until after his prison sentence, because he didn't want his son to take the blame for something that he knew his mother had caused. So you've got a man who is innocent, a man who had been fighting for Ron Gillespie and his case. He goes to prison, even though he didn't cause this problem. He didn't do the booby trap. He didn't do anything. The gun was stolen. And in the same document, it goes out and it shows that, let's see, what was his name? Charles Spencer testified that prior to the date of that booby trapping, he had tried to help him find that gun. He had tried to help him get it back. And so there is more than one person that knew that the son had taken it, but the father was trying to protect the son. So eventually what would come up when all this come out to wash, the son would eventually lose his life by his own hand, most people think it's out of guilt after he's old enough to realize the manipulation that he had been put through. So this is where we've been here for about 40 minutes. I could go on and on about this case, and so there are some suspects that's never been investigated. When it comes to the handwriting of the letters, everybody said there's quite a few people that say they were written all by the same person. I contend that if they were written by all the same person, that would be great. But we don't know that. You can't say 100% that it was written by all the same people when you don't have 1,000 letters. So big question is, why don't we have more of the letters? Why aren't there more available? Considering the fact that, yes, some people threw them out. Other people gave them to the sheriff. Everybody was trying to get the sheriff to investigate this, and he kept saying, well, we're not really sure what kind of crime they've committed. There's not really a crime here to investigate. Okay, you've got intimidation, you've got threatening, you've got blackmail, but then you've got voter fraud. See, several dozen of these letters actually say, if you don't vote for this particular sheriff on election day, I'm going to tell the world about your skeleton in your closet. So you've got voter fraud, you've got blackmail, you've got threatening, you've got, all these different things. And yet they're saying, well, we can't really do nothing about it. So when it all comes down to it, I really believe if you start studying what those letters said, the majority of them don't even sound like they were written by a man. There's phrases used in those letters that is trying to manipulate the reader into thinking it's a man. Like they said, I am the man, I am the girl, I am the boyfriend of a woman. Why would you put that in your letter? Why? I mean, it didn't make any sense. Why would you're a boyfriend of a woman. Okay, 2 points for you. Then there was another time where it says, you need to stay away from my girls. They're my girls. And different things like that.
With that term, because one of the bus drivers, David Langsbury, they thought that might have been him writing the letters because he had this thing for Mary. And I'm not sure the year, but he went on the run for an 11 or 12-year-old girl.
Yeah. So this is what we need to understand. These letters do not look the same. I'm going to let you guys see this. I'm going to do a screen share. I want you to see which one is it. Circleville Letters, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So here's one that you can say. It says, Mrs. Gillespie, stay away from Massey. Don't lie when questioned about meeting him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified and everything will be over soon. Okay, so everybody can see that.
And that's very neatly written.
Now you go and you look at this. Let me show you something. Now the other one is very neatly written, but if you notice, it kind of sways. It's not cursive, but the letters kind of sway to the side. Okay, now you go look at this letter. I'm going to do I lost my screen share. Hang on. So. Okay, can you guys see this one?
Yeah.
You see it? There's no sway in that. Everything looks boxy. See, the O's a box, the G's a box, the D's a box, the U's a box. Everything, even the S is boxy.
Yep.
Everything's boxy.
There's
no sway to it.
Yeah.
There's no sway to it. Okay. So if you look through, you can look through, there's, I don't know, about a dozen or so that you can find online. Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now look at that one looks more like the original. You see the sway?
Mm-hmm.
The O is long and circular, like oval. See what I'm saying? It's got a sway and it all swoops towards the right and up. It's like it's swooping to the right and up. Okay. But
I think
this here is another one. Can you guys see this one? This one is boxy again. Okay. Now this one is very interesting because finally the letters do stop. In 1994, just after Paul is paroled, they do stop. After Unsolved Mysteries comes to town and makes a nationwide story of it. Now, when Unsolved Mysteries said that they were going to come to town, Unsolved Mysteries actually received this letter to them. And it says, forget Circleville. I can't see it very well. Forget Circleville, Ohio. Do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to, and you El Sickos will pay. Can't tell what it says. It's so blurry. They're Circleville writer. But the very first thing is it says, do nothing to hurt the sheriff.
Yeah, so what are you protecting the sheriff for?
To me, I'm sitting there going, that wouldn't even come on my realm of thought unless the sheriff has something else going. Now, here is another one. Can you see this one? This is the Paul Freshour, the man who took this. This is the letter that he received from the Circleville writer while he was in prison. And you can't always see it because it's so pixelated, but it goes on to say that when we set them up, you ain't getting out of this. You might as well sit pretty, basically. You're right where we want you.
And he was set up. I feel
he
like
was.
It was.
But look, right here is that boxy S. Boxy S, boxy U, boxy O, boxy O. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then, okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. But my next thought on it is, go ahead and tell me what you were going to say, because I'm going to take it.
I think like after, because the original letter writers, but then when I think that there was a lot of writers to keep that legend going, to just lie on people, just like on Facebook, it happens all the time where you make accusations about people. But back then it was letter writing, because I just can't see it continuing when they got the person that they wanted set up is in prison. Mm-hmm. So why?
It's continuing. And it continued for 10 years while he was in prison.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tammy, you and I had talked about this earlier. I really thought every one of the letters was written by the vindictive ex-wife, Karen. But after looking at those 2 or 3 little samples that we have, do those handwritings look similar to you? I'm beginning to question that thought, because I'm sitting here going, those 2 don't look like they were written by the same person.
No. Was any of those typed? Was there anything?
There was.
I read something about the wife, Karen, or the ex-wife Karen had borrowed a typewriter at a strange time, and I thought that was strange.
Yeah, I don't have any of the ones that were typed. I don't have any pictures of them.
Maybe it was like what she put the address with the typewriter. Maybe that was in type.
Yeah, I heard that. And it was Paul's typewriter.
Yeah.
So again,
well, see, that's the thing. I can't. They have all of these theories about these letters, but no, you can't find a picture of the letter. And here's another thing. The reason why they started looking at Paul, other than the fact that the gun had been owned by him before it was stolen, she fingered Paul. She was the one that did it. She said, well, while they were in the middle of their contentious divorce, she told the sheriff that she found a ripped up letter in the toilet. She dug it out, pieced it together, and seen that it said something about Gillespie. So it must have been the Circleville writer. And then she said she found a dozen or so letters in the house stashed in hidden places, but she never could produce those for the cops.
Exactly. And she could have gotten other people to write those letters. I mean, she got her Well, I'll say
So-
allegedly she got her brother to set the booby trap.
Mhm.
So, you know, those writings, there's differences there, and I don't feel it's just one person writing them.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel she's behind it.
I think she's an instigator in it.
Mhm.
If you want to know the truth, I think she's an instigator in it. And when Tammy and I talked earlier this afternoon, I firmly believed that all of them were from Karen. And her handwriting just changed over time, you know, like people's do, because your handwriting changes as you age. That's just common knowledge. But her, after looking at those, I'm beginning to wonder if there was more than one person actually doing it. I don't know that they may have all been instigated by Karen, but I
Yeah.
don't think
her
she may have
son,
written all. Sorry?
maybe she
Yeah.
got her son.
Maybe.
She
'Cause
got
Maybe.
she's the one who she lost everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Because see, she was the toxic parent, and
Yeah.
the judge in that case actually seen the truth of who she was, and they're like, no, she's the abusive one in this situation. We are not going to put the children in this situation. So they literally seen her for what she was. They removed the children, gave everything, the home and everything to Paul. And so this is what she's doing now. If she can somehow get rid of her husband and try to prove to the world that he's the toxic one, she's going to get everything back. And in reality, eventually, that's kind of the way things turned out. So
Yeah.
Paul gets out of prison, and he is still labeled in this small town as the bad guy, and he spent the rest of his life. He died at 70, so he spent the rest of his life trying to clear his name, and he's like, I want someone to investigate what happened to my brother-in-law, you know.
Yeah.
So to him, what happened to Ron was even more important than what happened to him. And he's like,
Yeah.
nobody.
And it would take someone like Karen to put a child's name out there the way she did.
Right. Well, and this is my thing. I really think from the letters that I've read, and this is my thing, I don't ever say 100%, because
There's no
anybody
100%.
who says 100%, I think they're full of themselves. And I don't care if you are a former FBI handwriting analyst. If you were legitimate, you would say that you can't be 100% sure, because for one, you don't have all 1,000 letters to compare. And for two, you know for a fact handwriting analysis isn't an exact science. So you can't say 100%. So when someone gets up there and says 100%, I automatically discount them, because that's arrogance. That's ego. That's not science. That's ego. Okay.
Yep. And if it was him and they searched the house, they probably would have found a notebook that had indentations from the, you know, there's just those things, but nothing was done.
I'd like to mention some reasons that I don't think Paul did it.
Okay.
Because first of all, according to the report I read, there were no fingerprints found on the gun. His fingerprints were not found on the gun or the booby trap.
Right.
And he also had a good alibi for that day. And he was home having work done on his house, and there were witnesses there that saw him at his house that day.
All day long.
Yes.
They said he never left.
And the letters continued after he was sent to jail. And how would he send a letter to himself in jail? And also the fact that when he was released, he wanted the FBI to reinvestigate. So
right. He didn't just try to run and hide. So this is the next thing too. And we could go on and on and on about this. And I think next week we'll finish this one off, because there's all kinds of mistakes in the trial that we're going to go over. There's they literally entrapped him in the handwriting sample. They literally they conducted it incorrectly and literally trapped him in the way they did it. They also completely ignored the fact that they said, well, he took the day off of work on that day. So that must have been why. He took the day off of work because he was having work done on his house, and those people were there working on his house, and they say he didn't leave this property. We were here all day. He didn't leave. He was here. So they completely dismiss that. They also dismiss all of these other theories that we have, and there's a few suspects, persons of interest, I guess we should say, that we can talk about next week. Also, you need to talk about the fact that there is a bit of corruption in the sheriff's department. There's also a little bit of corruption in the judge in this case. And there's also the fact that you have a can't say the pedo word anymore on Facebook or YouTube either. But you had this man, the sheriff's best friend, was also the doctor and the coroner who ended up being getting in trouble for sexually assaulting 12 to 14 children. So we are talking, there is massive amounts of conspiracy when it comes to public corruption in this case. But you also have to understand, a man lost his life and nobody's investigated. A man's life was taken and put in prison and nobody investigated. That man's son's life was taken because of the guilt and all of the stress. So 3 people's lives were actually taken because of this letter writer. And yet nobody has done anything. And all these years later, you've still got the daughters of Paul Freshour who still firmly believe their dad is innocent, and nobody's listening to them. So you say, Sonova, why are you going over a case like this? You're supposed to be, you're a victim's advocate. You're supposed to be going over cases for victims' family members. I am. You've still got 2 daughters out there who are screaming at the top of their lungs, crying, somebody listen to me. And nobody's listening. And so while I'm running off on the Circleville, mystery, we got to remember, at the end of every case, you dig down. This is the concept behind this picture on the front of my book. Shattered. Behind every story is a shattered life. And you have 12,000 people in this one small town who were terrorized for 20 years. You had people lose their jobs, people lose their marriage, you had people lose their minds, you had all kinds of health problems brought on by stress. You had 3 people lose their lives because of this. And nobody has done anything, and nobody's really even trying to do anything anymore. Everyone's written it off as just one of those unsolved mysteries that, it's an interesting story. But behind every story, there's someone that's broken like this. Behind every story that I talk about.
The 12-year-old girl whose face was plastered all over the place.
Yeah.
She's old enough to know that that's going to stick with her forever. And I'm sure she got bullied. Oh, yeah. But who knows what she went through.
Yeah. And her name and her picture was on posters all around town. And I'm like, you know how damaging that was to that poor child? That is trauma to the max. Small town gossip is the worst thing ever. I was raised in a small town and I stinking hate it. They still, to this day, I haven't lived there in a decade, and they still think they know who I am. I'm like, I don't know you. I didn't know you back in high school. I didn't care to know you in high school, but everybody has their gossip, and that in itself is traumatizing.
Yeah.
But to be, so that's the reason why we're talking about this case. We'll finish up this case next week. All of you guys that are watching from Fredericktown, or your cases are from Fredericktown, I'm still working behind the scenes. I ain't done. But just to keep people coming to the True Crime Tuesdays, I try to shake it up a little bit, but I'm not done. I've got another interview with Durante Martin's family that I've got to edit up and get out. I haven't talked to Barbara. I haven't talked to you or Karen or any of you guys. If you guys would like to get on camera with me and just have a voice and say what you feel, I will gladly create a video with you and edit it up and do something. So if you guys want to get on video with me, I'll schedule you in and we'll make more videos for you. But I'm not done. I'm still working on stuff behind the scenes. I do have a plan for Fredericktown's cases, and we will be back at working on those publicly in a couple weeks. But next week, we're going to finish up our theories and the conspiracies around this case. And so hopefully that's where we're going to go. Everybody, I appreciate you sharing. Only thing I have to this week is to share it as a gift is my shattered book and my cards. And everybody that shared has already got these two things. So I'm going to skip it this week. I'll try to get some new prizes. So next week we can have another prize to win, because this week I don't really have a prize to give away. So I'm sorry. Everything's been hectic this week and I didn't get one together. So, okay.
Don't forget
Do you
to
have
like,
any final thoughts?
Like, hit, subscribe, and share.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Tammy, you have any thoughts?
Nope. I ran out of things.
You ran out of things. Okay, so I've got a couple comments. Marion says, if you live in a small town, everyone knows everything. So when they say they don't know nothing or didn't see anything, it's hard to believe. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many cases out there that need to be solved. I know, Venus, it's horrible. That's the thing. You work yourself to death and you turn around and look and you've got another 100 cases chasing you down. It never ends. Billy Rash says, we had 4 murderers involved in my brother's murder. The rumors were nonstop. Billy, you and I have never done a video about your brother's case, and I would love to. So if you feel up to it sometime, we need to chat, and I'll do a video about your brother's case. All right, guys. I'll get a better prize for the sharing contest next week. Like I said, I'm sorry. I'll get that together. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week for True Crime Tuesday. We will finish the Circleville Letter mystery. We'll finish that next week, and then we'll probably be back in Fredericktown. So it's like I'm going to circle back to Fredericktown periodically because I still have more cases to go over. I haven't gone over them all yet. You know, it's just I figure everyone's getting. I'm like, okay, you're getting the concept that there's corruption here. Let's give you a break and give you something else, and then we'll go back and show you some more. So, all right, well, guys, I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for signing on.